Take this cover off right here and just use a small straight blade screwdriver. Pop that cover off. Take the switch plate off, use a trim tool, just get underneath here, find a trim tool that fits. Just pop it up in the back and then slide it backwards. You can disconnect the connectors. Push down on the tab right here. And this tab right here. Take this trim piece off, just use a trim tool, get underneath it. It's just held in with clips. There's 2 bolts that you need to take out. Take those out with a 10mm socket. You can use a magnet to grab it so it doesn't fall. Take this screw out, use a Phillips head screwdriver. Now I'm going to use a trim tool and go around the perimeter of the door and just pop all the clips. Slide the door panel out and then up. Now disconnect the connector right here. Just push down on the tab. We can disconnect the cables. Just slide the cable out. Pop it off. And slide the ball out, and then same with the top cable. Slide that out, and slide it up. And disconnect the connectors down here. Just push down on the tab. If you want, you can use some pliers. Just slide that out. Same with this one. Take the switch. We're going to hook the switch back up so we can move the window. Just plug all those connectors in and turn the key on. You want to get the window up to where behind these covers. You can just take a straight blade screwdriver, get behind them, and see where the mounting bolt is. And obviously, if your regulator is broken, you're going to have to raise or lower the window itself manually. And turn the key off now. Take a 10mm socket and loosen up the bolts. You can use a magnet to grab the bolt. Grab the window, and it would help if you had an assistant holding the window for you, and just use some tape. Tape the window up. I'm going to disconnect the connector right here. Just push down on the tab. Slide that off. And we can disconnect this connector right here. This is for the window motor. Just push down on the tab. There we go. And use a trim tool and pop off all the retainers for the wiring harness. Be careful, try not to break them. And slide that to the side. Just pull this insulation tape out of the way. Now take all these bolts out, the perimeter. Use a 10mm socket. With all of those out, then just grab this panel and just take a trim tool, just get underneath here and pry this out. And it's just like a seal on it. It's just a little bit sticky. There we go. And just slide it down and slide it out. Take these 3 bolts out, use an 8mm socket. You can slide this up. And flip it over. Take these 4 nuts off, use a 10mm socket. And just push the studs through. And slide the regulator off. Take this rubber grommet and slide it through. Pop the connector off, just use a trim tool. Or just slide it off. Now holding the motor from the other side, you can take these 3 bolts out, use the same 10mm socket. And the motor just slides right off. Take the new motor, put it in position. You can slide the connector through. And just line the holes up. Get the bolts started. And snug the bolts down. Make sure they're tight. Push this rubber grommet through so that it's secure. Take the regulator And line the studs up. And on the back side, get the nuts started. And tighten them down. Now slide this over the motor. You might have to twist this a little bit. You can twist it by lowering this. I'm actually going to lower it down so that these are where those holes are, so it'll make it easier. So just hold that as you're twisting it. And get that to line up with the motor. That looks good. And get the bolts started. And snug these down. I'll slide this connector over this bracket and lock it in. Now we're going to slide this top part in underneath first. Make sure the regulator is behind. And slide it up into position. That looks good. And take the bolts and get those started. Now just make sure this gets centered. This looks like one that centers it a little bit more, so start tightening all of these down. Now you can remove the tape. Just make sure you hold the window. And slide the window down gently. Make sure it lines up with the brackets. It's lined up. Get the bolts started. And snug those bolts down. Not too tight. All right, that's good. Now slide these covers over. If you have to, you can glue them down or tape them down. Should be good. I'm going to take this switch off real quick. Slide the connectors off. Set that aside. Now reposition the wiring harness. If any of these pins broke, you can replace them or use some type of a wire tie. All right, that's good. Now reconnect the connectors on the door panel. Slide the cables in place. They only go on one way. Make sure this wiring harness goes through that hole or stays in that area. And reconnect these connectors over here. Slide the top part of the panel in first. And line it up. I'll get these bolts started. And tighten them down. Take the screw, get that started, and tighten that down. And plug in the connector for the window switch. Lock it in place. And get this started in the front. And lock it down. Line the trim up. And the little cover.